Women speaking for themselves and for those around them is the strongest force that we have to change the world, especially during this uncertain time. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of ZeeArts, I would like to welcome you all tonight to attend the ResiliArt Art Connects Women, a joint initiative of ZeeArts in collaboration with the UNESCO GCC and Yemen Office by connecting prominent artists from the Gulf states, including Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates on the same platform. The COVID-19 has affected the whole world, pushed into global recession, and impacted deeply on our social, economic, professional, and cultural scene. This pandemic has taught us many things indeed. Despite the enormous global ramifications, this pandemic has brought us together. Art has survived. Art is resilient. Art remains a connector, a universal language. It brings comfort to our hearts, solace to our eyes, and relax our mind during this difficult time. Catalyzed by this pandemic, the world has explored, experienced, and embraced technology. Artists has been proactive, innovative, and creative during the lockdown. I'm sure tonight we will have a heart-to-heart conversation with our panelists. Just few words about Art Connect Women, which is on its 4th installment this year. It is an enriching annual international art exhibition bringing female artists from across the world to commemorate the International Women's Day through plethora of artistic initiative. This year, we have had 100 female artists coming from 100 different countries from all the continents, just 1 week before the lockdown. To tell you, we were so lucky that all the artists who came over, they went back safe. Next year, we will celebrate our 5th edition, inshallah. And we are so eager, enthusiastic, and empowered to make it even bigger. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to UNESCO GCC and Yemen Office for collaborating on this project. It's been challenging, but the outcome is amazing. We would like to endorse the ResiliArt initiative and thanks to the team for their constant effort in making this happen tonight. Last, I would like to thank all the wonderful ladies, the panelists, Gada, Alham, Hanouf, Tahira, Mona, and Noor for accepting our invitation. And I'm sure you will all inspire us tonight. And many thanks to Ms. Daniel for joining us as moderator. Thank you all once again. My name is Zahira. I'm the founder of ZeeArts. Let me hand over to Ms. Anne Paoni, the Director UNESCO representative in the countries of the Gulf and Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zahira. Welcome to everybody. Good afternoon, Masah al Khair from UNESCO. So I'm particularly pleased tonight, I should say, to open this ResiliArt debate, especially seeing on our screen a group of very talented women from the region that will tell us, how they are coping during this period. So this ResiliArt debate comes within a program that UNESCO have launched in April. As you know, UNESCO is the only UN agency that really deals with culture and promote culture in all its form, tangible and intangible, and of course creative industries, to show how much art is playing a role, especially in the particular moment that we are. So of course the pandemic, the crisis has affected the whole world. It has been like a cold shower, I would say. And I think we realize, suddenly make us realize where we stand and what we do. We have changed perception, maybe behavior, way of living during this period. And of course, the global economy went into recession. And this didn't spare any single sector of the economic sphere, and in particular, the creative sector. The pandemic impacted the whole entire creative value chain, from the creation to the production, to the distribution, to the access to culture, and has weakened considerably the professional, social, and economic status of artists and cultural professionals. This is why through ResiliArt, we are giving them this platform to debate on these issues and see how much has changed, but also how much culture has still to give. We once again, culture in crisis has proved to be essential for the human being, but also extremely resilient. We have seen artists and cultural professionals to express themselves in a variety of different ways, from singing out from the balcony to relief and stand close to the health workers, to different kind of social media gathering, concerts, music, artists, exhibition, museums, and so on. So UNESCO, since the beginning of the crisis, of course, mobilized and has convened several meetings, from ministerial meeting to artist debate, to look at the museum professionals, for example, and how they cope with this. So the ResiliArt is really a platform, and we want to really hear from you, prominent female artists on the art scene in the Gulf, but beyond, because the platform provided to us is open to the world. So we really would like to hear from you today. So I would like to leave the floor to my colleague, Danielle Clich, who is sitting in Paris in our headquarters. So Danielle is a Senior Executive Officer for Gender Equality in the Cabinet of the Director General. But from 2009 until last year, she was the Secretary of the UNESCO Convention for the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expression, also known as the 2005 Convention. And she was Chief of the Diversity of Cultural Expression section. So during this time, she has not only served in these capacities, and in the present capacity merging the gender perspective as well into the artistic scene, but she has been launching a special edition of the UN Creative Economy Report, which is an essential and a very important document, the status of the art and the creative industries in the world. So I should commend Danielle for having done that during her tenure as head of that section. So without further ado, because we want to hear from you, we want to hear your voice, and we want to know what also you would like from us. You know, we are UNESCO, we are a big platform. We are here also to connect you, you know, within the region, but also outside the region. So I'm extremely grateful to all of you to be here, but I'm especially extremely grateful to Zaharia for being the partner, and ZeeArts for being the partner to UNESCO in this ResiliArt debate. I should say there's been many debates, almost hundreds. We have about 30 already in the pipeline globally. So I'm very, very happy that this is happening also in our region, and especially with the all-women panel. I'm especially proud of this. So without further ado, Danielle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna, and I would like to thank you as Director of the Office for the Gulf countries and Yemen, and also Zahir from Art Connects Women for organizing this very important debate that we're going to have this afternoon. It's also nice to see you, Anna, from far away. We haven't seen each other for a while. So it's good to see you, and congratulations for all of the important work that you're doing for women and artists in the region, and also to Zahir for this 4th edition. This year is an important year for gender equality for women. It's the 25th anniversary of the UN Conference on Women that took place in Beijing in China 25 years ago. And because of the COVID, the celebration's not take place live in person, but they will be taking place at the beginning of next year. So we have even more time to plan how we can continue to connect women from all over the globe and from all over the different professions who are working towards gender equality around the world. So Anna has already given us a bit of a background on the ResiliArts global movement. There are other ResiliArts debates that are taking place today, so we would like to acknowledge them, that this is part of a global dialogue that's taking place every day, all the time. So congratulations to the colleagues in the culture sector for initiating this. We have 1 hour to discuss a lot of important issues. So I just would like to first introduce our panel and get straight to the questions. So first, and maybe our panelists can just signal by raising their hand or doing something. We have Gada, who's from Bahrain. She's a photographer. She's the recipient of the Lucy Discovery of the Year Award, the American Photo Magazine's Image of the Year Award, and the Golden Lights Award for Travel. So congratulations, Gada. She has exhibited widely in the US, in Europe, and throughout the Middle East. And I think we can see some of her work in the background. There's Ahlam from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Hello, welcome. She is a very unique person in the sense that she is a pathologist and a painter. And she really works at this intersection between science and art, and has also looked for the art in science. So we're looking forward to hear from you. Anouf from Kuwait, welcome. She's an artist who has been representing the ZeeArts gallery, I believe, last year at the Carrousel de Louvre in Paris. Congratulations, during the 3rd edition of the Art Connects Women platform. There's Tahira. Hello, Tahira, there she is. She's a visual arts artist and a writer, and she received the very first award from the Ministry of Culture in 2005. She has also participated in numerous exhibitions in Dubai and was part of the UAE Oman Artists and Cultural Dialogue Exchange. Welcome, Tahira. Then we have Muna from Qatar. There she is in the center. She's a contemporary artist, entrepreneur, an IT engineer, and a business analyst. So again, we have very multiple, multidisciplinary, fantastic women with us today. She's known as Artist Blue. We can see from her paintings in background. She's Qatar Art Ambassador, named one of the world's top 20 change makers by the Summit 2020, and is an artist in residence with the Doha Fire Station. I'm interested to hear about that. And finally, we have Noor. Noor is with us from the United Arab Emirates. She's an artist who's exhibited in Europe, North America, and the Middle East. She's also a curator and a cultural producer of Emirati artists, both locally and globally. So welcome to all of you. I would like to start with a question that Anna raised, that is about the resilience of the creative sector. We know that it has been under great pressure, serious pressure, without any kind of warning, like a tsunami. The culture sector of UNESCO calls it a culture emergency. So I would like to know from you, what were the main challenges you faced in this culture emergency, but also in emergencies we see opportunities. So what opportunities did you also see for the creative sectors in your countries? So I will start with the topic to my screen, that is Hanouf. Hanouf, could I invite you to speak with us?
Hi. About the challenges, do you mean, or I start with the challenges or the opportunity that's coming in this situation?
So please, can you tell us about what were the challenges? What were the challenges that you think the creative sector in your country faced?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is that you cannot meet in person with, or you cannot go art gallery, or you can. It is something like أنا خليني أقرأ. It is like situation, an unnormal situation, and I faced a lot of fears. And as I am a single mother, I look after my kids, and it was something that not only happened in my country, it is something worldwide. And the first I feel very stressful, and I cannot go back to my artwork, and I cannot even paint, because usually when I paint or when I go to my corner to paint, it was like move my brush with the beats of music, and there is no that kind of stressful things happen. يعني, the fears what happen right now. So I think in this the opportunity is that like in GCC, the woman is the home maker, and she's the one who get responsibility of the home, not only for her job or so I think the opportunity that you can balance between your home and your artwork, because you are in home and your kids also do their schooling in the home, online schooling. So it is nice to work and look after your home in the same time. And I think this is good opportunity for the women, because the man usually أنا ما أدري Zahira, you understand? This is
I think I understand what you're saying, this balance between the home and the family life. I mean, many women have talked about this, and especially the Secretary General of the UN has even come out with a special report on the situation for gender equality for women during this COVID-19 pandemic. And in fact, some are really concerned and worried about the fact that the achievements or the perceived achievements for gender equality over these past years will be are under threat because of the fact that women are at home working, taking care of the children, not able to do the work as they want to, and their creative work, which relies really on space. Muna, maybe I could ask you, how was the situation for you in Qatar? Does what Hanouf, what she's saying, does it resonate with you? Was it different in Qatar? What were the main challenges for you working in Qatar?
Actually, it was totally different, because with the sudden pandemic, a lot of galleries and events shut down, and a lot of artists were affected by the pandemic, and some of them used art as a living for their living incomes. But a lot of opportunities raises up, especially with the artists that have some skills in the IT field. So for me, exactly, I have been running a lot of online awarenesses and supporting artists through the social media and the digital platforms. And we have created a lot of virtual exhibitions and assist artists to exhibit their work. And together we have supported the soldiers, the doctors, the policemen on this crisis by doing some arts and show our support to them and our love for them in supporting the people who are affected by COVID-19. So I think art connected the people together, and we have explored a lot of talented people that we haven't seen before, or they were shy to exhibit their work. So I think the online platform gives them opportunity to show the works, engage with the artist who has years on that field. We encourage them to start their exhibitions, and the ages were varies from young people from 5 years old to 50 years old. So I think this COVID has an advantages because we keep on saying stay home, stay safe, but at the same time we keep the art safe by encouraging people doing art while they are at home.
Thank you, Muna. I'll move across the screen to Noor. Noor, Muna was telling us about how the artists were going online, how they were given also new opportunities or opportunities to artists that may not have necessarily access to galleries, especially at the beginnings of their career. But we also know that there's a very serious digital gender divide. Not everybody has access to internet or to high-speed links. For example, we see this in the field of education, where many of the children, over 1 billion children out of school during this period of time, and many of them not being able to connect to be able to have access to online courses. But in your case, in the United Arab Emirates, when we're talking about the creative sector, which is very vibrant, what type of challenges did you face or did the sector face? But also, as we've heard from Muna and Hanu, what kind of opportunities did emerge? Which little flowers emerged that we didn't see before?
Thank you for the question. I just say that amongst all of us and the whole world, we are all dealing with very similar challenges, with art fairs being cancelled, exhibitions going online, and the ability to have physical interaction. So obviously, this challenge does affect everybody, especially monetarily, as we mentioned earlier. But I think the opportunity is that we have slowed down. If you think about last year, this time, you wouldn't be able to stop. If you're an artist, a curator, a cultural producer, you finish one event, you have another event, you're flying from one place to attend, and there's this whole FOMO, fear of missing out. Did I get to that Biennale? And even if it comes to the business development side, for artists and curators and gallerists to exchange with patrons and collectors. We needed all this platform, but now we slowed down. And in this slowing down comes the opportunities and the benefits. So you can slow down and you can read and you can look and reflect internally, and you can also access a lot of knowledge at your own pace. And as we are attending and participating in this webinar, there have been many others other than ZeeArts, but you can see, for example, with Sultan Al-Qasimi's Cultural Majlis, and even independent artists, and I'm sure maybe Muna is one of them, who's conducting their own Q&As or panel discussions. And then these platforms have not just been ephemeral, like they don't disappear. It's actually recorded and then it's posted on YouTube. So if you weren't physically there at that moment, you still have access to that knowledge. And also the caliber of the speakers and the artists and the museum directors that have now had time and been able to be available to be on these webinars and share their knowledge. And even a panel last week that was like, do museums matter anymore? With this whole push towards online. And no matter where your institution is with their online capabilities, I think one thing that has been very apparent, no matter how much art and music can bring us together and we share it and it's healing, at the same time, we've taken it for granted. And we've just taken it for granted that we can walk into a gallery and enjoy an artwork, or take it for granted to go into a live concert or hear live music even. And I think the value of the physical will never go away. So thanks. I won't take too much time because there's a lot more that we want to hear from everyone.
Thank you. We'll get back to you. We'll move down the screen now to Gada. Gada, we heard from Noor that while people were not able to move around, circulate, go different galleries, you're an international artist who's been moving around a lot. We also know from the studies that we've been doing at UNESCO on the mobility of artists, this is an extremely important aspect of career development for an artist. We know that career development for artists and creative professionals is not the same as in other professions. And one of the ways to get recognition and then to be able to sell works and so on is to be mobile. Now we're being more mobile in the digital space. What for you has been the biggest challenge in Bahrain for continuing to do your work as a photographer, as an international artist who's used to moving around?
Well, I think a lot of us artists are actually introverts. So when this COVID happened, for a while, it's sort of like any emotional event that happens. First, you get excited that you have time to yourself. Then you get depressed that now you can't go to all these places. Then you get angry, why is this happening? But then something interesting happens. You come to acceptance. You start to realize that with everything in life, there's duality. With every negative, there's a positive. I can probably say that in this 7 months ago, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this Zoom talk. 7 months ago, I didn't know what Zoom was. We wouldn't be saying hello, hi Noor, hi Hanouf, all this. So in a way, I think that when you accept it and realize that really this COVID thing, we have to look at the positive, all the negatives. Is what we have to do is internalize. Like Noor was saying, it's time to do all the things you never did. Read. I think I'm actually healthier now. I swim around the swimming pool. I don't jump in it, but I walk. I walk around and I get healthy. And it's something very interesting when we talk about gender roles and female artists, for example. When everyone's quarantined, there is no male female anymore. We're all in the same position at the same time, correct? Of course, there's inequality where some people cannot afford a computer or high resolution internet. But imagine right now for all, say, the men that are allowed to go to college or go out and study, for all the women that were stuck at home. This is starting a new, fresh chapter in our books. We're all now equal. We all have a chance with this computer age, with what we're doing now, to actually have a brand new, fresh start. Because, something very interesting, I was reading a book, an essay by a woman called Linda Nochlin, who's an art historian. In 1971, she wrote an article for the New Yorker. And the article was called, "Why Have There Been No Great Women Artists?" And of course, the first thing we do is become upset, how dare her? But what had happened was she's sitting at this event and a very prominent gallerist, male, sat next to her and said, "I really want to show female artwork, but there aren't any great women artists," which makes you think this. Since 71, since the old times, women have been excluded and not allowed to, for example, be in a nude drawing class or giving all the opportunities that perhaps men have, like Picasso or like Matisse or all these people. Women were always one step behind. But in this new age, we all have the chance to be on board. I can't go to the Louvre right now, but no one can go really to the Louvre right now. But we have this opportunity to go online and actually learn. It's a brand new start. So that's how I'm taking my sort of fresh new acceptance on this thing. Yes, I'm stuck at home, but there's a plethora of things to look up online and brand new people to meet.
Thank you, Gad. I think that more and more people are really taking this very positive experience from the last months and turning it into, well, we'll get to this a bit later, sort of a life-changing or new opportunity for a new start, as you said. And that's one of the questions we'll ask at the end. So maybe you all start thinking about it now, is about reimagining the future. Now that the world has been on pause, what comes next? Well, we'd like to see what comes next, but we'll get to that later on in our discussion. Thank you. Alam, you who are at the intersection of art and science, in art and science, in science and art, how would you say this intersection now with the focus on science and health and how that has really been at the forefront of the challenges over the last months, and how has the creative sector in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia been able to deal with that?
Being in the intersection was kind of interesting because it's like being served. I knew it would come. I knew this would happen. I knew humanity will be threatened by a very delicate, not even bacteria, it's a virus, which is a simple structure, DNA, and an envelope that mimics our cells. I knew this is, but I didn't expect it to come now. And so for me, it was like, there's, like you said, a pause, or the time stopped. It was insulting for the medical intelligence that this happened. And I felt it doesn't make sense that it's growing that fast. And, you know, of course, I was reading the scientific part and papers and everything, and it was creating an emotional stress in terms of we don't know what is this enemy. This enemy is invisible and it's threatening humanity, and we don't know where it is, and we don't know a lot about it. So in terms of the medical component, I felt like, yes, this is inevitable. This is a good test for our humanity. This is a good test for our values. And I think allowing Earth to rejuvenate for me was a good, a peaceful moment where I felt like Earth is breathing when we're all trapped in our little nests and allowed to practice whatever we believe in. It was a good test for our humanity in terms of, you know, judgment, reflection, fairness, fear, how you handle fear, how do you handle anxiety, how do you handle the unknown. And I am so lucky to have the creative mind where I, despite that, I'm trained to have a scientific mind and to always fall into the scientific framework and scientific logic, what makes sense and what is balanced. But being creative is a very important component that I think education ignores it. And creativity is not just art. Creativity is problem solving, adaptation, being able to find resources for you, compensation. So in this period, I was so creative to, I actually stopped painting because I was reflecting on other things, on my inner circle of life, my family, my home, my garden, my health, my meditation, my prayers, my self-growth. I couldn't paint because I was kind of overwhelmed with the impact of this situation. How do I approach it as an artist? How do I express it in my work? Should I express the pose of the world where refugees are sitting in tents and in unbearable condition? We don't know anything about them. Or should I express elderly people or vulnerable people who are in deathbeds in hospitals and doctors don't know what to do with them? What should I express? Or should I express my loneliness, my fears, my confusion? So it was kind of, I agree with what Ghada said, what everybody said, actually. I totally agree with all what you said, but specifically with what Ghada said, that it actually shook our core as a human being, regardless of being a woman or a man or a son or a daughter or a doctor or a housewife or a helper. It just shook our humanity. And I think the whole world is one now. We're all one. There are no borders.
Thank you, Alam. You raised also a lot of important points about the fact that, talk about the creative sector, about the jobs lost, about the economies lost, and what you're saying is that this is not the most important thing, that the most important thing is the time that we had to reflect and to even develop new forms of creativity that may emerge in different forms afterwards, and that focus on the economics is not the most important thing. Tahira, let me ask you, from Oman, what has been for you the biggest, or what do you see as being the biggest impact of the pandemic on the creative sector in Oman?
I think the fear of technology, because everything was available. You can walk in a gallery, you have chances to present your work physically. Suddenly everything went online. Lessons are online, virtual exhibitions. You need to know how to sell or market yourself in websites and social media. Myself, I decided to get help of technology from people who are more knowledgeable than me. Right now, I was trying to fix the camera of my computer and I failed. So I decided to join through the mobile phone because it's easier. We are more handy. We are more familiar with the device, which is in our hands 24/7, And so for me I decided to be more techno person, if that expression is right, because you can reach to wherever you want with a click of your finger. I mean, this pandemic time, I agree with Ghada, allowed us to express ourselves internationally. I mean, to be connected with artists from different countries. I started to search their art because I have more time on computer, look at artists. I always put aside that I will go and see their art later on. Now I have the time and opportunity to do so, because anyhow you have nothing with you at the hand except your computer and your digital devices. The other challenge for me was that whenever I go to my studio, if I face like some material are missing, the shops are closed. So I decided to focus on my passion, what I wanted to always learn, but I kept it aside, which is like Arabic calligraphy. And it needed few stuff like my pens and my paper. So I started to practice that. And I thought that because I teach languages, so I'm very much interested in languages. So I also started to search, I mean, from where the languages came and how can I create my own language, which I emerge different letters from different languages and start to improve the quality of my art. So this was a few challenges, but the opportunities are many. You know, one of the opportunities is you make yourself knowledgeable. You know, you learn how to use different mediums, different. I started to learn how to make short movies because I thought people are going, you know, more digital, and the whole world is going more digital. So that's it.
Well, I see that everybody has been using this time in the most creative and intelligent manner possible, learning new skills and really getting ready for the next phase. And that what I also hear from you is that international cooperation in the arts world or in the worlds that you're navigating has become more fluid than before, has become more accessible than before. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you, which is an interesting effect of this confinement. What I want to ask you now, and we only have about 15 minutes left, is in terms of gender equality. Some of you are saying that now the pandemic has given opportunity for gender equality to increase in terms of the opportunities between men and women. There are other studies which argue that and statistics also that gender equality has suffered a very serious setback that will take us back many, many years in terms of the progress that we think has been achieved. We also know that before the lockdown, there are very serious issues for women working in the cultural industries in terms of equal pay, in terms of access to decision-making positions, in terms of having access to the important festivals, platforms, networks that one needs as a creative professional in order to get the recognition and to be able to continue along an artistic career. So what would you say, what do you think is some of the impacts in whichever way for gender equality in the creative sectors in your countries? So we'll start with Hanouf again. Noor has raised her hand, so let's let Noor go first and we'll let Hanouf think about it. Go ahead, Noor, please.
Sorry, Hanouf. So interesting comment, and I'd love to see more data because I talk about my local experience within the United Arab Emirates, and as a curator who's been working in the UAE since I don't know how many years. I don't want to say my age now, but basically I used to struggle to find male artists for emerging artists. So for me, it was being able to find not more female artists, but actually source male artists who are emerging to put them on the platforms that I was working on at the time. So because maybe it's just the way we understand gender equality, it's always about like having more women, but for the cultural sector here, I can drop a lot of names, but a lot of women have leadership roles in cultural entities in the United Arab Emirates, across the UAE. And we have prominent artists, and we have, I can think of the top of my head, probably more often than none, female artists. But I think as well as a cultural producer or a person that would, program a talk or a panel, I always kind of had my eye to make sure that I have a balance. And sometimes the balance wasn't that I have to find another woman. Like today, we're all women on this webinar. It was usually sometimes to find a man to take part in those panels. And it always depends on what part of the culture sector you're talking about. The performing arts is a bit different than archaeology, than literature, than visual arts. So it's like a big bubble to speak about everything, and I don't like to generalize. but that is just from my personal experience. And then I think it's up to all of us to be part of that conversation. I was with a female leadership program with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs a few years back, and I met amazing women from the region through that program, but they were not from the culture sector. I just happened to be from this sector. They were from medicine and banking and finance and environmentalists, and it was just an interesting group. But I always used to say in those moments of like where the conversation was about gender equality, it was always if you talk about women, you have to talk about men, and if you talk about the economy and the benefits of having, for example, a balance of women, females and males within your organization and on the boardroom tables and all of that, I think conversation can't be had amongst ourselves. So yeah.
I think there's a lot of important points that you've raised there, especially about making sure that the conversation is not just about women with women, and that it's a conversation that affects all of us. Now, let me ask you, do you have the same experience as Noor? Do you see any other tendencies? I mean, all of us, I'm sure, would be knowing more women and in the culture sector or in the creative sectors and where you work. But when you look at those who are winning the prizes, those who are having access to the major museums, would you also think that there's a lot of women who, that the kind of gender equality in the creative sector in your field, which is more visual arts?
Actually, in Kuwait, we have a balance, and nowadays the women take more roles in art sector, and we don't face that there is no balance between men and female. In my point of view, what I saw in the sector, in the art field especially.
Okay, is somebody else? Gada, would you like to jump in?
Well, it's getting heated now. No, I mean, I totally agree, Noor, but if we look at the whole world, not just say what's happening in Bahrain or what's happening in the Emirates, because it really depends, like you said, who's really controlling the system in their own country. But if you look at the whole world in general till now, why is it? And first of all, you know, a price of an artwork should not be because someone has a name and therefore it should really be on how good is that artwork. So if I'm going to buy something, if I can afford something for $100 because I love it, it means something to me, right? But why is it till this day that a male still gets, in general, the artist, a much higher fee based than a woman, a top woman artist? I don't know who it is at the moment. In my field, is someone like a Cindy Sherman or say Deanne Arbus as photographers, right? Still, when you look at the balance of how many men have shown, and like Danielle Klisch was saying about the biggest shows or the biggest this, in general, it's still been men. Maybe now recently it's shifting a little bit, but it's almost like there was a jump start from before. You know, I mean, where were those women, for example, Artemisia and these people that were working sort of behind the scenes of the Picassos and the Matisses, and well, they never got the opportunity back in the day. So I almost feel like sometimes we're catching up. But what I'm hoping is that we end this COVID thing and really start to realize, like Ahlam, you're saying, the important world here is one. We're one. Everything is one. You know, we shouldn't have to really talk about male and female because we're really just one, right? But if we look at the bigger picture, it's still going on. I still want to know why they command more.
I think Alam seems to have answer to your question. She's eagerly raising her hand. Please, Alam, what's the answer to this?
I want to say something like, this question is actually very difficult and very complicated because I don't have the stats to tell you if there is inequality. But from my perception, the men control the market, men control the auctions, men control the general taste, men control the buyer. Men influence the mentality of the collectors generally. Also, the female curators, I'm surprised because I find out that a lot of women curators, they, now, for me, I think gender, when you're an artist, you're an artist. But if you're your masculine in identity, we both have masculine and feminine inner component, is dominant, your art will be more masculine. If you're more feminine, but then the taste, the general taste, who controls the general taste? Who dictates what goes, what's acceptable? It's especially in art and in collection, and you know, you have I can't give you example of my head right now, but yes, there is a hidden politics or philosophy, or probably it's not intentional, but women artists, they struggle 10 times more because our issues or what we put in our painting is more of what you call it, housekeeping, more emotional, more motherly, more, you know, of course, in the Middle East region, intimacy is out of the book. You can't touch it unless you have, you know, like respect of the what acceptable to the society. Otherwise, it's not proper. But in general, when you're talking about inequality in terms of creativity, this is a very complicated question. But I feel I'm doing very well, and my art is doing very well. But I still think men control the general taste and what standard of art to be categorized as, you know, collectible art, as a medium art, as a, you know, like auction art and things like that.
It's a lot of important points you're making about diversifying narrative and in fact the diversity of cultural expressions, which was and is a very important priority for UNESCO, to ensure that everyone has access to the means of production, the means of having their work recognized, being shown, distributed, and being able to participate in important biennales and so on. So diversifying the access, the narratives, the cultural expressions which are available, which would then help in terms of what you're talking about is a certain aesthetic, which has been accepted by the marketplace. And that becomes the standard upon which everything else is judged. Muna, maybe I can ask you, what would you see are the particular issues vis-a-vis gender equality in the creative sectors, or the issues that you're facing that you would like to share with us?
Actually, first of all, I disagree with what has been said, because I think nowadays we are in the 2020, and we are all equal with the men. But we as an individual, we are building our own opportunities, because if you know how to market for your artwork, if you participate on different exhibitions and dealt with the different galleries and try to sell your painting, exhibit them in different countries, not only locally, you will be globally recognized. And if you have running your own initiatives, you will also be known globally with on the arts field. So I think we are the one who are building these restrictions or rules that the men are better in the art field, not the women. So this is my beliefs on that questions.
That's interesting. So you're saying that it's also the mindsets, that we have to change our mindsets and believe that everybody is equal, and therefore to be able to go out and participate as equals.
Yes, because by using your positive thinking, you know, you can do whatever you want. Because by achievement and, you know, doing different things, you will reach to your goal.
Well, mindsets is definitely something that UNESCO is working to help with young people and with different communities on how to address stereotypes through the media and through different forms to be able to reach what you're talking about, and we all wish to strive for that. Tahira, can I ask you before we go to our last round of questions, do you agree with what your colleagues here are saying? Do you find the same experiences in Oman?
Actually, I agree a bit with Muna and a bit with Ghada. With my experience was slightly different. I started like 20 years back or 22 years back. At that time, I had art as a passion. You know, my mom was art teacher. So I was raised up in this kind of environment where I used to see her doing some patchwork, some, you know, embroidery work, some stitching. So when I was, there was no art study here in Oman, so I decided to study English, but my passion was always in art. So 22 years back, I joined the Omani Society for Fine Arts, and the men were dominating the whole sector. All the male artists, they were more free to visit each other, to learn from each other, while we were restricted. We can't go home after 7. We can't meet with a male artist to learn. Other gossips will go around, you know, rumors about us. So it was different like 20 years, 22 years back till now. And again, I agree with the mindset, and knowledge is power. When I went to London to study and I got my MA in arts and digital arts, I was so, you know, happy. And when I came back in 2012, I decided to prove myself. It's me. I am here. I am presenting. You like it or you don't like it. You want to come or I'm not come. You don't want to come. I am going to put myself on the foot, on the floor, you know. And I did my exhibition and it was really a great successful. A lot of people came. So it's also mindset, you know. If you allow people to harass you, I know some people, some ladies were abused, you know, but then they were not able to stand for themselves. I had a chat with them. I said, why do you allow them to get, you know, to harass you? You shouldn't do that. You should stop them. There were, yeah, men are dominating, like what Ahlam said, the sales sector. I know a lady who used to sell a lot because she was extremely beautiful. But then, you know, we cannot generalize this. It's 1-2 cases. Again, what Muna said, how you market yourself, how you are able. That's why I say knowledge is power. How you are able to put your work on digital platforms, how you are able to join the group, what to join, when to join, how to join. It's all very important. Thank you.
I just want to mention that this is not a problem or a challenge that last 30 years ago for the whole sectors of women in every other field, not just in the arts. If you wanted to work, for example, from the beginning, Ghada. And I understand Ghada's point and Muna's point. Yes, there is a mindset from the fact that why do men make more money? Well, do we ask for more money? Number one. And the other thing is that the idea of like how the whole world works. But I just wanted to say that it's not just a cultural field situation, and the whole of the region has changed and developed across the last 40, 50 years. So we are of course, a much better place than our mothers and grandmothers right now.
Yeah, I think also Tahira introduced another element which is really important here, and that is her mother was an art teacher. So she had a very strong woman present in her family who served as a mentor, as a maybe even a coach who helped you develop these important inner strengths and beliefs that she could go out and exit her work. And nowadays, if you look at the funding landscape and different institutions, even in the region, the different types of programs they're making available for women working in the arts sectors or in the creative industry sectors is exactly that type of coaching, mentoring, confidence building, entrepreneur skills building, which may actually result in what you're saying is to be able to ask for that equal pay, even though we know that it's not always the case. So that's all of it. It's a very complex issue. It's not either or. It's once we start to tease out these issues, and I'm really sorry because we don't have much more time to discuss this. Maybe I hope one day we will meet in person so that we can continue these really important discussions. But before we hand it over to the public, because I keep seeing little flashes on the screen here of questions that are coming in. So, but before we go there, as I promised, last question to all of you. Here at UNESCO, the Director General started aurum called Reimagining the Future. And she made a very important decision that the first forums, which continue right now, are to hear the voices of women. How do they see the future? And all of these videos are online. You can go and consult them. So now that we have this beautiful panel of women, I would like to ask you, how do you see the future of the creative sector? Let's not make it too broad. How do you see the future of the creative sector coming out from this pandemic? What would you say is the most important thing you would like to see as a change for the next 10 years?
Can I answer the question?
Yes, please. Anu.
Yeah. Actually, as I just graduated from Sorbonne University about art historian and art history and museum studies, and I do some thesis. And what happened now in the future, it's really strengthened my theories. I had already developed it in the pandemic. For example, in my master, I posed a question of whether coming new generation would be able to see Mona Lisa in the front of them. It was a thesis question. To become to answer of this question, I do a lot of research that we should we can involve the new media to develop the interactive 3D virtual galleries visit, and in additional that I did a research about the hidden masterpiece in this storage. When I went to Paris, Louvre, Paris, we went to the storage and we find a very amazing artwork that is never been shown to the people. So in the future, I think it will totally different. The people will see something that I think also the museum creator was like they are unable to represent some artwork because of the condition of the work. And I think the new generation will show the masterpiece of hidden art work. will be for the new generation. And you can manage it with the new media. So you can like make a virtual visit, and you can make a video of this artwork to reachable and available for the people to see it.
Thank you. And who else would like to tell us about the future? Muna, please.
I believe that the digital era has arrived now after the pandemic, and everything will be transferred to the digital platform. And I think the artist community will become larger, especially with the people who likes to go to the art exhibition, but they don't have time. So I think our community will be larger. We will reach the people who are at the other side of the world, and we can build our new artisan committee, and we will have the opportunity to visit different galleries virtually. And you know, just we need to educate the artists and the people how to use the digital platform.
Okay, we'll put that down as a digital skills development, as we'll start asking the funders to provide this. Who would like to go next? Or
أحلام تفضل يا أحلام.
I'm trying to open it. Thank you. I agree with Muna. I think with the aid of technology, artists are learning how to post and how to be accessible to the public, which is a different kind of target than before, where you are only exhibiting in shows or museums or studio houses. So art is going to be more available, and artists will be able to cut the cost of the middleman, the cost of galleries, so they will be able to sell and prosper. But I feel because of this quarantine period where people had enough time to stay in their homes, I feel now most people have been observing what they have, what they need, what's on their walls. So I think people are appreciating real art, good art, and I think there will be hunger for quality art, for authentic art, meaningful art, and I'm sure the field of art will prosper in the future.
thank you, Alam, for that optimistic future vision. Noor, what do you say? Are you as optimistic?
Yes, I love that, Ahlam, what you've said. I think that the reflection of people being at home. But I'm going to go backwards and then forward. I look at history and the 1920s and why they were called the roaring 1920s. And there was a huge economical boost. And then also there was a lot of creative content coming out of that era. And I'm hopeful that with this accessibility to knowledge, again, with what Muna said, the digital era, now you see courses by Yale and Harvard being offered for free online. This wealth of knowledge bank, and whoever wants to use it, that wants to access it, they have it at their fingertips. And I think that the idea of what is important when you're looking at your home is not just about what's on your walls, it's about looking in the mirror and thinking about your mental and physical health. And art and culture feeds your soul. And I believe that that's what you're going to see, that people now will identify that art is a luxury and it's not something that should be taken for granted, as I said earlier in the conversation. And that we should focus on our communities of creatives that are right next door, because for a long time our eyes were all outside and what's happening all in other parts of the world. We still have access to see what's happening, but we really need to remember who is our community internally down the road from us and in a city an hour away. Thank you.
Thank you, Noor. I just need to pick up on something that you've all focused on, which is the digital. And yes, it's important, and yes, these online courses for free access and so on, but not everybody has a computer, and not everybody has access to the internet, and not everybody has the skills. When Tahira was speaking earlier about not understanding how to get the camera working and using her phone instead, I could very much relate to what she was saying. So not everybody is techno savvy, and this is something that we have to be really aware of when we are very deterministic about the benefits of the digital environment, especially as we go forward. But Tahira, what do you think about the future? What would you like to say is the outcome of all of this health pandemic? How is the creative sector going to change as we go forward?
Well, I don't know if I'm from old age or what. I was just thinking that UNESCO is a very, global organization. What opportunities can we get? I mean, can we come to exhibit in a hall, and then that material can go to digital, to your channels? I mean, first do it physically and then we digitalize it, because there are many people also. Someone is like my husband. He doesn't like to see something digital. He wants to see something physical. So like art, my art is 3D art. So how much of it you can touch it and feel the texture of it digitally? So I was thinking also of, having opportunities for female artists to present in physically in global, after this pandemic is over, when the airports are open. This was my question. Sorry.
In question, or this is what you would like to see in the future, the restoration of mobility and human to human physical contact, to have interactions with creative works rather than just in the digital environment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm wishing that. I mean, after that, this can be recorded and go into digital format, digital platform. But at the beginning, can be done physically.
Yeah, but you also raised a good point between artworks which are digitized and works which are inherently made with digital technologies like 3D art, for example, or other types of interactive multimedia art. These are two different things. It's not quite the same. So that's also important for us to keep in our mind when we are talking about the digital world and creativity and what we need from the future. So what you're saying is we still need the mobility, the support for human to human interaction and experiences, creative experiences, but also to make a distinction between art which is digitized and distributed online, and art which is made from the beginning digital. So these are
that's
different.
very important. Yeah, because our art, my art especially, is not made digital. I can make it digital and a digital version, but right now it is not digital. It's meant to be seen physically.
Yeah. So let's hope we can all see each other physically again soon. Hada, you have the last word in this session on what are we looking for in the future. How do you see the future of the creative sector after this health pandemic?
Me?
Yes.
I think I said a lot about what the future, but I want to go back to what Tahira was just saying. First of all, inshallah, this COVID is just, we don't need it any longer, right? So let it just disappear. It's good that we all got to see each other on a flat screen. And I agree with Mona, we're going in the digital era. So we do need to know how to use these things. And it's true, only a few days ago, I bought a webcam, I can barely use. So what's really nice is we don't want to see the Mona Lisa digitized. You're not going to feel it. I think that art really needs to become more tactile. And I think it's not just about being there and seeing it. It's about smelling it, hearing it, feeling it. I think that we should really start going into more of the emotional things of art and not, you know, when I used to print in a dark room and hold a negative, you can never, unless it burns, you always have that negative. Right now, my pictures are in a cloud somewhere that have disappeared. There's no comparison. So we have to remember it's great to have this digital thing that's happening in the future, and it's making, you know, Photoshop is great, but let's not forget about the paint and your fingers getting dirty and, you know, going into a space and really feeling people and artwork around you. So it's almost like, let's go to the future, but let's not forget the past. You know, I don't want to be a robot. You know, if it means I start to get wrinkles and wither away, so be it. Do not plug me in. You know, that's what I have.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a good way to end this session before we get the questions from the public. Is I don't think any of us want to be plugged in like our mobile phones and charged. So let's fight for human creativity, human interaction, and that one day we will see each other again soon. So now I'm going to thank all of you for this very interesting debate. It's been really my honor, my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. And I'm not going away, but I'm going to hand over to ZeeArts to bring out the questions from the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danielle. It was really amazing to have you, and thanks to all the panelists. We are not finished yet, so we have 10 questions from the audience. I don't know if you have time to respond to the 10 questions, but we will try to summarize them. So I'll just throw the questions, and any volunteer who would like to respond, please feel free. So a question from Ahmed Al-Hajri. Do you believe the media outlet in the Middle East are doing enough publicity for the art community, and why? Do you believe the media outlets in the Middle East are doing enough publicity for the art community, and why? Anybody would like to respond?
I might chime in just to say, if we're looking at Arab media, we lack terminology, المصطلحات بالعربي. So even if something is conceptual, I've been in interviews where the journalist has asked me to dumb it down because he doesn't believe that the audience is going to understand me. And I was like, that's the first problem. Also, I don't know if we're looking at media, because now who watches TV, I don't know, because everybody is on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Live and YouTube and Netflix and Hulu. And so I don't know, like this genre of television, where is it going? I'm not in the media industry, but just as a person that like I get interviewed at events, I just feel like it could be deeper, could be more knowledgeable. It's like they're filling in a few minutes because this is the report that they have to do. And there are a few that do, I think, better jobs than others. But that's from my point of view.
Thank you, Noor. Okay, let's move to another question. I think participants who think there is equality in the art scene in the GCC are new to the market. If we looked at the numbers, is it unfair? Anybody want to jump?
I want just to add about Ahmed's question, that I believe that the media are focusing on commercial things than the culture and art. They are not giving a good part. But about the second question, I give my point of view that there is I think the women is taking a good part nowadays.
Thank you, Hanouf. Okay, another questions for Noor. Why are there less male artists in the Gulf region? Is it because art requires something that some or most men cannot offer, which vulnerability, because they are afraid it might threaten their masculinity?
Okay, so first of all, I need to reiterate my statement. It was emerging young artists. At that time, I had a platform for new artists on the scene. We have amazing male artists in the region. We all know that. Maybe they're older, maybe there's some that's younger, but at that time, I was just really trying to find fresh graduates. They haven't had an exhibition before. And when I would go out to universities and colleges, I had easy access to, female colleges. And within the art college in Sharjah, there were less males, just happens to be. But also, I think it's just a normal thing that's everywhere around the world. Your son, says, I want to be a doctor, an engineer, the traditional concept of a lawyer, a finance or what have you. And then if a girl says that she wants to, do art or graphic design, I mean, my father, Allah yarhamah, he wanted me to be a doctor. He thought I was very smart. I was like, I want to do art. And he was like, okay, but yeah, he knew I had the talent, but he wanted me to have security and financial security. And what parent doesn't want their child to have? And let's be honest, like most artists have to have some sort of full-time job to make income. Some are doing it independently, and I lift my hat off. I've tried to do that for a few years. For me, I struggled, and that's my personal experience. But what I will say is that, as in any field, in the UAE right now, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center and the space agency is full of Emirati women. That when they go to conferences abroad that are male-dominated fields in the West and even in Asia, they're the biggest group of women that are going out there. So I think in different fields, there's a different challenge. But if I'm just talking about culture, again, it depends. Are we talking about music, visual art, curators, programmers, because people that are, also there's jobs that you don't think about, like what about the technical side of the lighting and the sound? Is it easier to find women in that field? No, it's easier to find men who are sound engineers and lighting engineers. So I hate to generalize, and I don't have the numbers. I'm not working for McKinsey, but I'm just talking from what I see on a daily basis. And yeah, I think there's also this idea of a caretaker. If you send your kids to the nursery, do you want the teacher to be a woman or a man? There's also this idea. Yeah. Sorry.
Thanks, Noor. Thank you very much. We have a very interesting questions which apply to all of you. Has your art changed during isolation, or have you discovered new ideas because of isolation? A question from Claire. Yes, Tahira.
As I said earlier, I decided to work on the things that I left them for free time, because the lack of materials in some materials in my studio. So I decided to have a shift in focus on what I am used to do to what I wish to do long back, and which was Arabic calligraphy, because it needed only pen and ink, and paper, and it's easy, handy. You can have it at home, not necessary to go to a studio and travel, 10 minutes, because we were not allowed also during the lockdown to go out. So this shift in focus made me decide how to improve my art later. So what I mean that when doing this calligraphy artwork, I decided to have a change in my path, in my style, to emerge new symbols, new letters, to experiment new designs, new, direction that can guide me to what I call new presentation.
And for me,
yes.
I try to support the volunteer, the doctors, the policemen, to help, to take part in the society, and to support them and to give good vibes for the people.
Thank you, Hanu. Thank you, Tahira. So we are receiving a lot of questions. Let's take only 2 last questions and then we close. So there's a question from Shidima. Do you think that gender affects the price tag of an artwork? Gada or Huna?
Well, I mentioned before, again, look, of course, years ago, things were very, very different. Alhamdulillah, things are shifting. But again, I don't have the numbers. And to be honest, I'm not really interested in numbers because again, what we should be focusing on is art. What is art? You know, what fulfills us? But once again, if you look at an auction house, who's getting top dollars? It still, for some reason, seems to be a male market. So whatever it is, we need to erase this kind of whatever it is, whoever is backing the situation or whatever is happening, to really make it more of a kind of an equal market. But you know, it's like who's the person behind that's actually judging what a price of something should be? We never know that. It could be just one person who has a lot of money who decides this artwork deserves this much, and suddenly the market changes, correct? So, you know, I can't say, but so far, this is what we see. You know, give me a Picasso, give me a Matisse. Name me right now. Let's even talk about one of the greatest female artists, as far as I'm concerned, Frida Kahlo. Compared to what she's been paid for per painting to what a Picasso or a Matisse or a Van Gogh or all of them. You see what I'm saying? Now, we shouldn't really talk about inequality because, you know, male, female, we should be one. We should just all be one. But since the question has been questioned, this is what I see. And you know what's interesting? Frida Kahlo, if I'm not mistaken, when they ever have a show of hers, I think it's the most amount of attendees that will go to one of her shows. I mean, of any show. But yet, the market doesn't quite reflect that. So it questions in one's mind. And then it repeats to wild, for example, do female, like say you have an Angelina Jolie and a Brad Pitt. Why is she making slightly less than he is, for example? Or you're in a TV show, why? You know, these are the questions that always go in my head, and we have to be like, enough. Let's start looking at art, let's start looking at the world to how much we value ourselves and what we're showing. And inshallah, one day we don't have to talk about gender inequality, to be honest with you.
Very powerful, Gada. One last question before we end.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I read it in the news magazine or on the website that Shirin Nashat, the Irani artist who lives in America, is selling more than many male artists there. So maybe I wanted to dig in her history and find out how she was able to reach to that, if it is true. I don't know if it is true or not true, but this is what a professional magazine has written. You know, and so again, I come to the idea of how you market yourself. I mean, how you find the proper channels which can support you, you know, and how you expose yourself, or not expose in the matter. I mean how you present yourself, you know, how you put yourself in the market that you are professional and you are capable from your tools. Like Shirin Nashat is one of the examples. You know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tahira. Let's take one last question from Anna Galia. Is it about time that we try to do away with female and male artists and look at the actual art rather than which gender produce it? I think you guys just respond to these questions. If anybody wants to add on. No? Okay, so thank you very much, ladies, and it was really powerful and an enhancing experience to have you all on this panel, ResiliArt in Art Connects Women, a collaboration with ZeeArts and the UNESCO GCC and Yemen office. Thanks to Ms. Danielle Cliché, Mrs. Anna Paolini, and to all of you. You have been great speakers, and thank you for sharing all your experience. And big thanks to our audience who are listening to us, male and female. So it was really an interesting conversation. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
What an honor it was to talk with all of you and see you. Wallah, it's an honor. And I respect you so much. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Same
Thank
here.
you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.